I listen to a lot of video game music, kinda more than what is considered regular music. It's like a 60-40% split for me. But the idea of video game music from people who don't play video games that have prominent and skilled composers is that they think of the 80s era arcade. Something like this. But video game music has evolved. I wouldn't even just say evolved, but at this point there are some soundtracks that I would consider indistinguishable from what is considered normal music because the soundtracks are created to be certain genres. The OSTs or original soundtrack has such a focus that people not in the know might even confuse them with typical songs from an indie band. I'm not here to say that video game music is going to be on the radio anytime soon, but at this point I wouldn't consider them that differently. But while I would consider video game music to be the same as traditional music, the idea of a soundtrack is very particular. So, the question is, what makes a good video game OST? To make a soundtrack for a video game, there are a couple of things and decisions that are made by composers and the team of creators. These decisions are like genre or tone of the music. But one thing that can't be avoided when making a soundtrack is that each musical score must serve a purpose in the game. In traditional albums, the musicians aren't really making music to serve as a function. Some albums tell a narrative, that is true, so the sequence of an album is important, but that isn't the same as we need a song when this happens in the game. And so this leads to the divisions of themes. There are several types of themes that are created, so this video will break down some of the more common types of themes into 5 main categories. The first category that we'll start off with is the main theme. The main theme is exactly what it sounds like. It is the theme that can play in the main menu or a trailer, but the whole point is that the theme represents the game as a whole, as one unified narrative or experience. The main theme may also serve as the leitmotif that other themes are based off of. A good example is Elden Ring's main theme. Have a listen. This theme, used in the trailer, is literally called Elden Ring. Orchestral with somewhat muted vocals, this theme is perfect for a dark fantasy. This theme is telling you that it is set in a land that is larger than life. It is a world of gods and a bloody dynasty, and the theme perfectly encapsulates the majestic yet dangerous and dark world. Games can be the same genre such as fantasy RPGs, but they can have very different themes. Have a listen to an orchestral version of Final Fantasy I's main theme. Quite different from Elden Ring, Final Fantasy's theme is orchestral, all the same, but it's gentler in tone. You can immediately tell the difference between the two themes. While Elden Ring starts roaring, Final Fantasy theme has a sense of meandering in the beginning. The theme shows that this game is a different type of fantasy, one that is more romantic and lighter, at least on the surface. Main themes, however, are not always present while you're playing. They can be saved for cutscenes, openings, or credits. So let's talk about themes that are actually present during gameplay. The first one we'll start with is what I'll call the environment theme. This is a term that I mostly created because I felt that it described generally how these themes present themselves. Environment themes are pieces of music that are played in a specific area or environment. These themes describe not exactly what's happening, but instead where things are happening. They can almost be described as music for the setting. They're meant to show the vibe of the location, but not exactly what the characters are doing. The whole point of this theme is that rather than representing the game as a whole, it has the fluidity of matching the tone of whatever area the player is currently inhabiting. For example, a soundtrack could have a somber tone to denote that an area is ravaged by time. A good example is Nier Automata's amusement park theme. Let's hear it right now. The area of the amusement park in Nier is meant to be a twisted yet whimsical place where all the robots are playing some kind of fairy tale-like role. However, at the same time, these robots didn't create the amusement park. Like the rest of Nier's areas, the amusement park is a desolate and post-apocalyptic area, so that's why there is this creepy nature to the song. It's not just an amusement park, but one that's almost a rotting echo of what that place once represented. It was a place of whimsy, but now it's something else, something darker. A subgenre of environment music is a hub world theme. A hub is generally an area that players go back to often when they're not doing active gameplay. They can serve as a home base for the characters and the player. The player can often upgrade their gear or interact with their allied characters. One example can be found in Armored Core 4. In Armored Core 4, the player returns to the colony of Anatolia after every mission. In this colony, the player can customize their robot to their heart's desire. Let's hear the theme right now. The theme in Armored Core is almost like a Home Depot theme for nerds, because this is essentially the player's garage, a place where they can design and redesign their mech to suit their taste or for a particular mission. The theme wouldn't be described as incredibly exciting, but it is instead meant to represent the player in between missions cooking up ideas. But what happens when a player is not relaxing or simply exploring a land? What plays when they must face a conflict in the story? This is where battle themes fit in. Unlike environmental themes that build a tone or main themes which must translate the entirety of a game into a single song, battle themes are the simplest, but arguably one of the most important pieces of music to get right. The reason is that they define the conflict that the player will be facing. These themes must go hard, they have to. It's not a choice. A bad battle theme is not a good idea because the player will be hearing it often, especially if it's a common battle theme. In fact, I would argue that it's better to have a forgettable battle theme rather than a bad one. How about we go back to Final Fantasy? Let's hear the battle theme from Final Fantasy XIV's expansion, Shadowbringers. For Encounter, the battle theme of Shadowbringers is exactly what a common battle theme should be. It's energetic and clearly represents a current struggle. It is generic enough that you can't make a specific connection to any person or monster. It's a battle, but it's a battle with a random mob or dude. Even though I called this section battle themes, I am referring more generally to conflict in a story. The reason for this is that battle themes don't necessarily have to just be the act of physically fighting. For example, Danganronpa's main gameplay comes from the characters investigating a murder. So, when a murder investigation begins, a special investigation theme plays. Here is Danganronpa's 3 investigations theme. despair searching is intense in its own way compared to Rencounter. It carries the energy of a detective searching for clues, not a real physical fight. Sticking to Danganronpa, we can also find that battle themes can be made much more dramatic to denote that a story is crescendoing. It's to show that the story is getting to the point where even the normal battle theme is now more intense. Let's go back to Danganronpa 3 and see what the battle theme becomes near the end of the game. Here we can still hear the original despair searching. But they added a guitar because, well, guitars make everything better and more intense. Hope searching plays in the last investigation to denote that this overarching plotline is reaching its climax. Now we can discuss boss themes. But this naturally bleeds into the next type of theme that I wanted to discuss, and that is character themes. Most people's favorite, and for good reason. Character themes can literally be any of the themes that we just talked about. Even environment themes can represent a character. What makes them so good is that these themes are usually supercharged with meaning, tone, and gravitas. To begin with, character themes are usually saved for either when the main characters are going to have a major plot moment or when the antagonist is going to charge. I am the storm that is approaching. Okay, we'll talk about his theme first. Virgil's theme, I think, can be perfectly explained without getting into the game's story or knowing anything about the character himself. Because it is a 9-minute rock opera. The whole song is him just screaming about his struggles and past battles and literally every problem that he's ever had. And it's great. Let's hear it again. What's important about Bury the Light is that it provides reverence for the character of Virgil, due to both its lyrical references and length. You don't give a character a 9-minute song unless they have some importance to the game or the series. It just doesn't happen. Virgil deserves a 9-minute rock song about his character arc, because he is essential to the development of the two main characters that the series has ever had, and is the final boss of the 5th game. Moving along, we can also discuss Guilty Gear, which has some of the most excellent character themes I've ever heard. These aren't just good songs, they're experimental pieces that show you just who a character is. Some songs are straightforward, like, for example, Sin's theme. Others are an exclamation of existence and will, or philosophical manifestos that delve into the psyche and ideals of these people. One example is Happy Chaos's theme from Guilty Gear Strive. It took me 10 years to find the answers of me. I forgot about it in 2 seconds. I don't have anything that's really important to me. That's why everything is beautiful. Happy Chaos's theme is great because it perfectly represents who he is as a character. Not just on a lyrical level, but the chosen instrumentation and just how the whole song is constructed. Happy Chaos is a character whose role as an antagonist is simply because he wants to. He doesn't hold any ill will towards the main protagonist. He's just yucking it up and even admits that he could potentially be a good guy in the next game. The jazz element of the song constantly shifting gears, get it, in the middle of the song is appropriate, while simultaneously having the heavy metal aspects that are in line with the rest of the Guilty Gear soundtrack. Then you get to the end of the song. Here, the song shifts a third time, not jazz or metal, but goes on to be a regular opera. Some people even call it the Disney section of the song. Once again, showing Chaos's absolute absurdity and nonconformity. It is the perfect theme for him. Now, there's one more type of theme that I wanted to discuss. The final thing. Well, not the final thing. Well, you know, the penultimate thing. I want to talk about the final boss's theme. The final boss themes are meant to be the end of the journey for the story and the final test of the player's mechanical skill. While not all bosses are hard, the most important aspect is that at this point, you should know the game system inside and out. It is also the ultimate test for the characters from a story perspective. The themes need to be memorable and bombastic. The reason for this is that final boss themes are usually the second to last theme that players will hear. The final one being the credits theme, but some people even skip that. I was fair in this video and I did not talk about Persona music. I will now talk about Persona music. The reason for this is that Burn My Dread exists, which needs to be discussed. Please take a listen to it.
Yeah, the time's now. Burn my dread in the dream, I'm fearless now. I'm pretending to be no pain, you see. From the bottom of my heart, I'm ready to seize the day. Cause I know in your heart there's a spot for me. Believing in the game and possibilities. It's more like a gift that I don't deserve, so I gotta give it back to you by all means. By all means necessary. Anybody else to y'all is secondary. Time's running out if you have any. Don't worry, I'm invincible, so legendary. If I fall down, I'm gonna get back up. Right back up, man, to where I left off. Caught, but I feel the battle because I got my crew on my back. You know I'm already. I got it locked down. The end is coming in, so burn your dread.
Burn My Dread is the final boss theme of Persona 3. The version that I use is from the remake, which is the Reload version. But both versions are amazing. Burn My Dread is the period point to the mechanical challenge in Persona 3, as there is no challenge. You can't lose the fight because it's all symbolic. The theme has everything. It describes the psyche of the main character in the final battle and alludes to what's going to happen afterwards when the characters win. There is a confidence to this theme, but there is also an aspect of acceptance. The acceptance that the party isn't going to come out of this battle unscathed. But nevertheless, this needs to be done, and the main character accepts that responsibility. Perfectly, it is also in line with the rest of the game's soundtrack, keeping the same rap and hip-hop genre that is present in the rest of the game's soundtrack. Burn My Dread is one of the best final boss themes that I've ever heard, and while there are other games that stand alongside it, I personally haven't heard a theme that's better than it. And so with that, the final boss theme, we kind of have all the pieces for a video game soundtrack. If every one of these songs is great and is good, then a game soundtrack can really be memorable. Sometimes a soundtrack can be better than the games themselves, but that's a more hyper-specific type of discussion. So after hearing me talk about video game soundtracks for this long, I wanted to end this video off with some notable composers that I personally really like in the video game landscape. I'm going to list them down in the description below. Everybody on this list are people that I would consider GOATs of video game music. We got Masayoshi Soken.
Do you know Nahi?
He does the Final Fantasy XIV and Final Fantasy XVI soundtracks. He's really good. Very, very good. All of his songs are bangers. We got Shoji Meguro. He's the one who does the Persona music and also music for Atlus in general. He recently departed from the team, but has such a good relationship with Atlus that he's still making music for them. He is composing for Metaphor ReFantasio, which I am very excited for. Yoko Shimomura, which did the Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy XV soundtracks, which I think are really good songs. Revo, who did the OST for Bravely Default. A lot of those songs are really, really good. He's also the lead of the band Linked Horizon. You might have heard from them because they also did the AOT openings. Daisuke Ishiwatari, the creator of Guilty Gear, and he also does all of its music, which is incredible that he does everything basically. Casey Edwards, who did the soundtrack for Devil May Cry 5, including Bury the Light. If you haven't heard Devil Trigger, that one's also really good that I recommend if you're going to listen to another song from Devil May Cry. Darren Korb, who does the music for Supergiant Games. You might have heard of his work in Hades, which Hades is really good. A lot of those songs. In the Blood is a good credit song. I know I didn't talk about credit songs, but that one's really good and you should listen to it. Nobuo Uematsu, who I think is really good. One of his key songs that I like is Otherworld from the Final Fantasy X. Keep in mind that the composers that I just listed often work in teams. So even though I may not have said their names, keep in mind that there are multiple composers and multiple artists working on these soundtracks. It's a collaborative thing. I usually just mention the leads or people who were brought in to sort of make particular songs. Anyway, this video has been way longer than I expected, and now we're here at the end. I hope you enjoyed me rambling about video game music, and hope you find some good tracks there. Video games to check out, a lot of them have really good soundtracks. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you later.